Rob from Morty 42 here, and today we're covering the news. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. We've got some movie news. We've got some a trilogy that we thought was going to be canceled. Apparently, it's not. We've got some trailers to talk about. We've got some Justice League stuff to talk about. There's so much. There's so much. And hey, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. We've always got stuff to talk about, some new things to cover, some reviews, just all kinds of stuff. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Now, I want to start off today talking about Disney Plus and Star launching today in international markets. So yeah, this is for Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Europe, and Singapore. This launched today, so I'm kind of curious if you're in these areas. Let me know how it's going. Let me know down below. Are there issues signing up? Are there weird little buffering things that are happening? I'm kind of curious. And of course, if you don't know. This is going to include Disney content, Pixar content, Marvel, Star Wars, National Geographic, and of course, a lot of the stuff that here in the States is only available on Hulu, so a separate streaming service for us. And for you guys, it's all together. So I'm kind of curious how it's going. So yeah, let me know. So, we've talked about this movie before. I've been really keeping a close eye on it just because, it's Martin Scorsese, Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, and it's financed by Apple. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting project. But yeah, Killers of the Flower Moon, Jesse Plemons joins the cast. So it's kind of an interesting development here. Jesse Plemons is one of those actors he's been solid in every single thing I've seen him in. So I'm kind of curious how this is all going to play out. Of course, Killers of the Flower Moon is based on David Grant's bestseller set in 1920s Oklahoma, depicting the serial murder of members of the oil-wealthy Osage Nation, a string of brutal crimes that came to be known as the Reign of Terror. So yeah, it sounds interesting to me. Of course, yeah, I'll just keep an eye on it and see how this all plays out. And in other new movie news, the director of The Raid, Gareth Evans, he signed an exclusive deal with Netflix. And Tom Hardy is going to be starring in Havoc as his first film for Netflix. And I've liked Gareth Evans ever since I saw The Raid. I wouldn't say that it's my favorite movie, but I definitely saw a lot of potential in his direction. And of course, Tom Hardy is somebody that he's solid. As an actor, he's solid. And of course, the story is set after a drug deal gone wrong, when a bruised detective must fight his way through a criminal underworld to rescue a politician's estranged son, while unraveling a deep web of corruption and conspiracy that ensnares his entire city. It sounds interesting. So, yeah, with Tom Hardy involved, it's definitely piqued my interest. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on this one too. Now, I guess in a bit of surprising news, it was announced that Edgar Wright is going to direct The Running Man for Paramount. So, of course, this is based on the Stephen King short story, and the Arnold Schwarzenegger version of and Richard Dawson, I guess, version of the movie is very different from how the story played in the actual short story. So this is going to be really interesting. They say that it's going to be very close to, the original version of the story in Stephen King's version. So yeah, this is going to be interesting. And of course, Edgar Wright, look, Edgar Wright's done some amazing work. Baby Driver, Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, The World's End, Scott Pilgrim. The guy is he's one of those directors that it doesn't matter what he's doing, I'm going to be watching it. So yeah, look forward to The Running Man. And finally, in the news portion of our show, I wanted to bring up Daft Punk breaking up. Just because, it's I can't believe they've been around for 28 years, first of all. And then finally, I just can't believe that they're breaking up. I first heard of them back in way back with their music videos directed by Michel Gondry, like Around the World, and it was just they were just so fascinating to me. But yeah, some great music. Of course, they did the soundtrack for Tron Legacy, which gosh, it was in my was in my car, playing all the time. When that movie came out, I wasn't a huge fan of the movie. I like it. But it was the soundtrack, man. The soundtrack was just so good, and the idea that they're going back to do a Tron reboot, and I guess Daft Punk won't be involved, is kind of a bummer. But yeah, if you haven't listened to some Daft Punk recently, go ahead and pull them up on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever. Let's jam some Daft Punk for them. Amazing stuff. Now, are you guys ready for some controversy? I mean, I think it's been too long. It's been too long. We just haven't had enough controversy, especially on this channel. So I'm kidding. I really don't want any controversy, but we got to talk about this, right? I mean, it's got to be talked about. Apparently, Rian Johnson Star Wars trilogy is still in development. Recently, he did an interview with USA Today with Soraya Wilson, and yeah, he basically confirmed that while he's been busy with other projects, that is still in part of the deal. It's still on the way, and of course that yeah, you can imagine how Twitter took that. I would think that if Rian Johnson was still really involved in it, you would think that they would have said that something about it on the Disney Investor Day thing, right? I mean, with all of these projects in the works, a trilogy, a planned trilogy from somebody who's won Academy Awards would probably be something you'd want to mention. Or maybe they just didn't want to talk, start up the controversy right away, especially during the Disney Investor Day thing. I don't know. I don't know what the thing is. I can see it going both ways. I can see Disney saying, yeah, we're really not going to get into that thing again. We just don't want to announce that it's not a thing yet. Maybe they're waiting for a lot of controversy to, sort of like die down and stuff. You know what I'm talking about? Or it could be a thing where they're like, yeah, we really wanted to talk about it, but, there's enough going on that we didn't want to bring in something that was automatically going to be divisive. Because that's the truth. If this is still true and it's still in the works, it is automatically divisive. People that hate The Last Jedi are saying all over the internet, and you feel free to go check those out. There's plenty of people that are saying it's going to be trash. It's going to be trash. He already ruined Star Wars. Why are they giving him another trilogy? All that kind of stuff. If you remember, they gave him this trilogy. They announced that he was going to be doing this trilogy before The Last Jedi came out. So they were very, very interested in the idea that he must have pitched to them. So for me, from that point of view, I'm interested. I'm interested in what it is, and I'm interested to see what he can do because the guy is amazing. I don't, for those of you who haven't seen some of his movies, go watch some of his other movies. They're insanely good. Brick is amazing. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, just love him. And also in Looper. Looper's a great movie, right? With Bruce Willis. I haven't seen The Brothers Bloom, but then Knives Out. Knives Out was fantastic. I mean, I don't know anybody. I haven't met anybody that didn't like Knives Out. So it's one of those things where I think he's a good storyteller, and I think if you gave him a situation where he's in control of the story from start to finish, he can tell his story in a trilogy. I think it could be amazing. I just don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where I could see this going either way, So yeah, kind of let me know what you think down below. So a lot of questions came up after the Justice League trailer was released. It's like, why isn't the trailer in widescreen? And I thought that it was maybe just an artistic choice for the trailer, but it turns out, no, this is Zack Snyder's preferred look of the entire movie. So the movie will be presented in 4:3. This is really, really kind of interesting. And I wanted to take a moment and just kind of help explain this, just, for those of you who may not be aware. So in the center of the screen here, you see 1.33. That is 4:3, right? That's sort of like most movies, if not all movies, pre-1950 were shot in that ratio. So yeah, it's the square. It looks like an old television set. Now, when televisions came out and became sort of mainstream, the theaters and the theater exhibitors and movie makers, they were like, people aren't going to watch the movies. They're not going to the movies anymore. So we have to differentiate ourselves from what they get at home. We have to give them a different experience. And that's why the ratios started to widen, right? The scope would widen. So probably one of the most common ones is 1.85, which is 16:9. That's the ratio of what most televisions sold today. That's what they're in. And then of course in the 60s they came out with scope, cinema scope, right? That's 2.35:1. So you can see that. So that's the black bars. It's the widest image. And if you look at I've got my little transparent border around that is 16:9. right? So what you're seeing is pretty much representative of what a 2.35 would look on your screen today, right? You've got the bars on the top and bottom. And of course, 16 by 9 fills the screen with 1.33. You're going to have bars on the left and right. Now, this isn't the best image to use in this case because, well, Lord of the Rings was shot in scope, which is 2.35 to 1, not 16 by 9. So, but anyway, just this gives you an idea of what we were battling back in the 90s when there were widescreen DVDs and full screen DVDs. This is kind of what you get here. Is really the full screen was cropped on the left and right side, so you would lose some information. Now, a lot of people didn't care. Yeah, they just wanted the screen to be filled, no black bars, nothing like that. I get that. But the original intent of the filmmaker, that's what I wanted, right? I wanted 16 by 9 or 2.35 to 1. That's what I wanted when I watched my movie. I wanted to see the original intent of the filmmaker. Now, recent movies have sort of, gone back and said, we're going to release movies in this old format, right? The 1.33. This movie, The Lighthouse, came out just a couple of years ago. It's got Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe in it. And yeah, it was shot in 1.33. And if you watch this now on, say, Amazon Prime, I think is where you can watch it in the States, you will see the black bars on the left and right side of the screen. And I don't know. I mean, it does kind of make you think that it's, like it's an archived piece of footage, or this is an old movie that I'm looking at. So I guess it works, kind of as almost like a layer of storytelling. But yeah, I mean, that this is how HBO Max will be presenting Justice League. It will be in 4:3 with black bars on the left and right side of the screen. So to illustrate this point even further, I've kind of done this. I mean, this is one of the borders that I made for the stream, but you can see the, of course, take away the border here. But this is a 4:3 image, right? This camera that is built into my Mac is a 16 by 9 camera. And what I did was I moved in the I guess the information, right? So to make it 4:3. So this is a 4:3 image. And for example, Stanley Kubrick used to film everything in 4:3 because he got irritated that when movies played on television, they lopped off the sides to make it fit on the television. So he would shoot it just like this, and then when the movie came out for the theaters, he would crop it in even further. So a lot of people were upset recently when Full Metal Jacket was put on, I think, 4K, and they released it in 16 by 9 instead of 4:3, how it was actually shot. Now, this is kind of hard to illustrate, but what they would do is that they would crop this in, right? And then of course, if there was, like, say there was information that was happening up like on this part of the screen, and if you just kind of centered the border, then you would lose that information. They would just move that border up or down based on where the action was taking place in the frame. But Stanley Kubrick was big on this, and maybe this plays into what Zack Snyder was thinking. Now, I think that Zack Snyder I think what he's basically said is that he shot some footage for IMAX, and of course IMAX shoots on a almost 1.33 ratio, and he enjoyed the look of the image so much that he wanted to shoot Justice League that way, and he did. So this is one of those situations where we're really getting what the director wants from, as far as a presentation standpoint. That's what he says. I would not be surprised if they shot it in IMAX, because eventually with a theatrical release, it would be displayed in an IMAX theater. And then for everything else, they would do the whole cropping in and everything. Maybe they just didn't want to spend the money to do that part of it for HBO Max. I don't know. I'd be curious to know what different versions are going to be released of Justice League, or Zack Snyder's Justice League, I guess, at this point. If it's just all going to be 4:3, or is there going to be a 16 by 9 or a scope version of it? I don't think so. I think he's probably going to stick with that 4:3 image. Now, a lot of people are going to sit here and tell you that, oh my gosh, that's so ridiculous. Why would you do that? Well, honestly, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we think of it, because this is how he wanted to present it. And in doing so, that's how he framed his movie. That's how he framed the action. It's not like we're going to be losing anything on the left and right side of the screen because he framed it for that image. So, in that way, I'm kind of okay with it. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, I don't like a 4:3 image. I mean, just me personally, I prefer wider formats. I like the wider view that it gives you. It almost gives you, especially if you have a big screen or if you're in a theater, it kind of gives you this idea, oh my gosh, look at how big the image is. By doing it this way, you're just kind of like locked in and your just head's just straight ahead and you're just not moving. And I don't know. I guess it's okay. Me personally, I prefer the wider formats like 16:9 or 2.35 to 1. So I guess the real thing is it going to matter? Is it going to make the movie any better or worse? No. No, if the movie's good, it's not going to matter what format it's in because eventually you're just going to forget and get locked into the story. I don't know. It's going to be really, really interesting to see how people respond to it. You know, are they going to say, "I can't believe there's black bars on my screen while I'm watching this movie"? Are people just going to zoom in, you know, and fill their screen, which means the quality should go down, but then they're going to be missing stuff that may be happening on the top or bottom. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. But for me, like I said, just because it's such a different thing that we've ever seen before. You know, how many times does a director get to go back and finish a movie from years ago? I mean, it just doesn't happen. So from that, I guess from that aspect, I'm pretty interested. And yeah, even though I would prefer a wider format, I think it's going to be fine. I think it's going to be an interesting thing to watch. So yeah, that about covers it for today. We covered a lot, didn't we? So yeah, I just have so much fun putting this together. So any feedback you have, I would love to hear it. Especially if maybe you learned something about the different film formats. That's some of the stuff that I kind of love to think about and love to talk about. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.